I'm out of breath now. Yeah, the emergency alerting system requires me running to another room so we don't have too much dead air. And have you seen me run before?
I have not.
Yeah, that's a rarity. It happens once a week.
Right.
So that's the great exercise I get in for my week, running to the other room to push buttons.
Usually when I see people running, it's not a good thing. So.
That's right. And I just run right around the sheriff, and he's
Right.
like trying to dodge me. So I didn't know if that was defensive mode or like, what's Tim go?
It's a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Well, welcome back, Sheriff. I
Good
hope you
morning.
had a great weekend and a great Memorial Day. You were here with us last week on the
Right.
holiday, and we were expecting the abbreviated. I used some kind of word. I forgot what it was, but we actually ended up having a full show.
Right.
And
When we get to talking, it's kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, I've heard several people say, y'all don't hush, do you? Y'all just start talking and go on and on. But that people have given us some very positive feedback
Well,
from the
good.
show, and
I'm glad to hear
we
that.
appreciate that, and a lot of great information to pass on to the community, and just a lot of awareness brought to folks about what kind of activity is going on, so they can protect themselves and their families.
Right.
And that's good to be able to know what we're facing out there. Knowledge is power is what I've always heard.
It is. And it's good just to get that information out to where people know what's going on in their communities and they know what's going on in their neighborhoods, what to be looking for and things of that nature. So I think people really enjoy that.
And one of the press releases you shared on the Cherokee County Facebook Sheriff's Office Facebook page, and I just now shared it on WKRK's, about a Whittier, North Carolina man sentenced to more than 12 years in prison on child pornography charges. This is a press release from the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office,
Yeah,
Western District.
He was convicted in federal court in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And he was 56. His name is John Michael Autry. And, Whittier's just pretty much in our backyard, just
Right.
a county or two over.
Yeah. We have Roger Williams that kind of dedicates himself to doing the internet crimes, child pornography cases, sexual assaults, and all those kind of things that goes on at the sheriff's office. It takes a special kind of person to kind of work those things day in and day out and not get consumed by it. And we thank Roger for the hard work that he does. And Roger's very well known throughout Western North Carolina. He's well known within the internet community and within the law enforcement internet community.
Right.
And as far as his expertise on different things. So when we have these type of cases come up, a lot of times there are people located in other places, but they contact our office specifically with the request to use some of Roger's programs and some of the things he does to investigate, and also some of his expertise and knowledge is trying to investigate some of these sexual predator crimes that's going on out there. So as a sheriff's office, we're very proud and very happy of the fact that other people within Western North Carolina can utilize us and use us.
Absolutely. This is something that I doubt 20 years ago existed, having the need for someone to monitor the
Right.
internet for child pornography and other human trafficking type
Yeah.
crimes. And it's...
We have actually in the past worked different cases where predators you've seen on TV on the John Stossel things on 2020 and all those Dateline and all those things that came out about, the predators. You set up a sting operation, they come in and you take them down when they get there kind of thing. And we've done a few of those in the past at the sheriff's office and here in Murphy. One of the things we're always careful of, though, is when we don't have predators in the area, we don't want to lure them here. We don't want to make them come here. So we kind of try to concentrate on our locals and the people that's kind of around here on the crimes that we're working. If you've got people in Virginia or people in Tennessee or Mississippi or Alabama, we don't want to try to lure them to Murphy.
Right.
Even if we are arresting them when they get here, we don't try to want to bring those people here. So we try to concentrate on just those local here. When Roger sets up fake profiles and he sets up things on the computer as far as predator things, it's amazing the amount of responses that he gets on those. And it's not just local responses, but it's responses nationwide of people responding to these things. So it's just an epidemic that's out there that we need to be aware of. We need to be aware that's going on.
And people that are behind the computer, they have this false sense of being anonymous,
Right.
and that's not the case.
No, and there's programs and stuff now that even we seize a lot of computers for different reasons. We seize them whether it's drug cases or child pornography cases or other crimes that happen out there, embezzlements and other things that happen. We do a lot of electronic seizures and computer seizures and things. And a lot of people think, well, we can go in and clean our computers, wipe the hard drives clean and all those kind of things. But if it's ever been on a computer, it's still there. Right. And so there are programs and things out there available that we can go back and retrieve those. It's not available to the public, but it's available for law enforcement. And we don't have a 100% success rate, but we have a very high success rate of getting those images and getting those things pulled back off those computers. And that's one of the reasons why they utilize Roger a lot here in Western North Carolina, is because there have been a lot of time, a lot of grants, a lot of money that's been invested in these things. And these programs are not cheap. And so a lot of the sheriff's offices that's near us, that smaller offices, instead of investing the money themselves in their county, a lot of times because their need is not as great as other counties, when they have things going on in their county, they contact us and we'll run those profiles and things for them.
What do you find to be the biggest problem as far as internet crime locally? Is it just people collecting things or sharing them that they shouldn't share?
Well, right now it's kind of a combination between those inappropriate child pornography type things. And as far as if you want to encompass everything that's a problem, I think our biggest problem is just scams, just internet type scams. You know, you got your IRS scams that's going on. You got your king of Africa that's got his money that he's trying to wire through a bank or whatever. And
I'm still waiting on that.
Yeah, I know. It's some prince somewhere, you know, or some general that's overseas that's needing to get home and can't get an airline ticket for whatever reason, you know, and all these things are just scams that people fall for and send money to these things. But a lot of it's done not just by telephone, but also by email and by Facebook and Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, and all these different things that's available out there. And so a lot of the internet type crimes are not just pornography cases and sexual assault cases, but they're also fraud type cases that we investigate a lot.
And a few years ago, I did receive one that was very, very convincing. It was from a former employee, well, from his email address anyway, and it said that he and his wife, and that checked out. He did have a wife, were traveling to Jerusalem or somewhere, and I thought, well, that's his place that he would go. Right. But he said, the email said that he had got stranded over there and needed some money just to fly back home to the States. And since it did come from his email address, which his email address had been hacked or compromised in some way, it did look authentic. Right. But luckily, I've seen enough of that to realize that, no, I don't need to send money to that.
I always tell people, like with my Facebook account and being sheriff, being elected official, I have a lot of Facebook friends. Right. And so people just about every day, there are people requesting to be friends on Facebook. So I accept most people unless it's just obvious it's a fake page or just obvious that something's going on. If they're local people, I accept them onto that page. But one thing I always tell people is when you accept somebody as your friend and then you get that personal message that pops up after that, it says, have you heard the good news, or did you hear the good thing that happened to me? You know, I always just delete them right back off at that point, because you know, when it starts that, just right off the bat, you know that's going to be a scam coming down the road somewhere. So, and what happens is they hijack these profiles, they hijack these pictures, make fake pages, and a lot of times people say, well, I thought they were already my friend. Why are they asking me to be my friend? I thought they were already. Well, it's another page that's been created, and they've hijacked their pictures. And then when you accept them as friends, you're not talking to your friend, you're talking to somebody else out there. So, when they start that and you accept somebody and they start, you know, did you hear what I won, or good news, or I got this insurance settlement, or I got all these things, you might as well just go ahead and delete them back off at that point and block them, because you know what's coming next. They're going to want you to buy this, they're going to want you to do what they did, or they're going to want you to invest some money here, and that type of thing. And it's always a scam when that happens.
And another one I received a few years ago was from Discover Card, and they had used the Discover logo, and they had created a link, something that was it was something.discover.com. It was not discover.com, so they had actually gone to that trouble but when I clicked on it, it went to another page that was trying to say account verification, and they wanted me to enter my credit card number and the PIN on the back. So anytime that happens is a red flag, and just want to warn people of.
There's just a
that
million
situation.
different scams out there, and just a million different ways people are stealing money by the internet. So, I always say if you're going to do internet transactions, be sure it's with a reputable business and a place where you normally do business, so you know that you're not sending money off to somebody that's going to go overseas or whatever, and you're never going to see it again.
And some sheriff's office and police departments have a designated parking spot with cameras on it. And I didn't know if for like someone doing a Craigslist transaction,
Right.
we've heard a lot of horror stories about people using Craigslist and getting there and
Right.
getting robbed and things like that. Can people do that?
They can. We do have cameras in our parking area at the sheriff's office, and so what we do is we encourage people that if you're going to buy something off Craigslist or meet somebody with Craigslist, meet them at the sheriff's office parking lot. Meet them there to do your transaction with, and that way, the chances of somebody coming to rob you at the office of the sheriff is very slim.
Right.
But if they come there and try to take advantage of you, rob you, at least it's on camera. We do have tag numbers and things of that nature. We can go for at that point.
And even with Party Line, if you don't know the person you're dealing with on Party Line or any of these yard sale pages,
Right.
find a safe location.
That's
It's
it.
better to be safe than sorry. And if you're on camera close to the sheriff's office, that's usually a pretty safe location.
It is. And I usually tell people, too, that even if you're selling things and it's legitimate, you're legitimately selling furniture or selling whatever on your site, be careful about who you invite up to your home to pick that stuff up. Kind of know who's coming and that kind of thing, because people could be coming to your house and buying this stuff, but their intention may be to come back later and break in and rob it while you're gone.
Just going there and checking out what.
Right. So, be very careful about letting people inside your house, seeing what you have, things of that nature. But also, an encouragement, and it's just a habit that I've developed over the years. But if someone comes to my house for whatever reason, whether it's to purchase something we're selling on the internet or whether it's, to say, hey, I'm lost, I'm just looking, trying to find so-and-so, jot that tag number down. Write it down. There's nothing wrong with someone comes to your house and you're going to have to invite them inside your house to get your furniture. There's nothing wrong with asking them for some identification. Let me see your driver's license. Write their number down, whatever it may be. And just so you have some identification later about who it was that came to your house in case something was to happen after that.
All right, moving on. We had a situation last week with a pretty bad storm here in downtown Murphy, and folks saw lightning actually hit the ground.
Right.
And let's see, the power was out here in the Murphy area for about 2 hours, and that created some other problems too, especially in the Hiwassee Street area.
Right.
Can you tell us what happened in that?
Yeah, what had happened was right immediately after that lightning strike, and it was one of those summertime storms that wasn't really expected. It just popped up out of nowhere, and there was a lightning strike here in Murphy. We didn't know at the time there was a lightning strike. We just knew that there was a storm in the area. We actually had some citizens that was driving down Hiwassee Street that called into 911, actually right in front of the 911 center there in front of Chevelle's, about the pavement being cracked and raised and water coming up from under the pavement. When we came by there, myself and Murphy Police Department and one of my deputies stopped there and looked at it, and the pavement was raised. There was chunks of pavement that was out floating down the road.
Is that where that big
That's where the big cone is
is
sitting
now?
there. And when we came by there, it looked relatively safe and solid, but with all of the sinkholes and things that we had recently in Murphy on the 64 West area, we wanted to be more safe than sorry, and we wanted to make sure that that there wasn't a sinkhole developing under that or anything that someone was going to drive through and fall through. I think once they got investigating it, took some of the pavement up, kind of looked what was under it. When the rain kind of subsided, the water quit coming up from under it. I think there was a concern that the lightning strike had bursted a water pipe.
Right.
And had caused the pipe to bust while the water was coming out. But come to find out, it was just the amount of water that was flowing underground. But once they got there and dug things up and looked at it, they realized that due to that lightning strike that was in the very close vicinity, that it kind of ran through the ground and knocked the pavement out and those kind of things. And that's why the water was flowing through the cracks. And under it is it kind of just the force of the lightning just kind of raised the pavement.
Yeah. The street from the red light at the town square to right there near Main Street, USA,
Right.
that was closed down for the time during the investigation, and there was concern that they were going to have to dig the whole road
Right.
up to try to find
Well,
that.
when we were standing there in the cracks and just looking down where the pavement come up, you could see probably a foot under there where the water levels were when it quit raining. And so that was the concern. They didn't know how much under that, whether that was the end of it, whether it was
Right.
just a foot deep, or whether there was 10 more feet of water under that, So I think once they got under it, got to checking and seeing what was under there, the road itself was safe to drive on. And there will be have to be some repairs and things done there. But I think as far as safety, it was safe to continue to drive on.
And there was concern that a sinkhole could develop too.
Right.
Anytime we have heavy rains like that, and then there's culverts and pipes and water mains running underground, if there's any kind of water leaking around that pipe, then it may take
Right.
some ground with it.
And there's times, that people don't understand this, but there are times, like say if you have a water pipe and there's a small leak, that pipe could be leaking for years and not know that it's leaking. That water
Right.
could be draining on out, going into the river or going in somewhere else. And so the entire ground could be already washed out from under there, and you didn't know it. And that's kind of what happened down here on 64 West with the business down there and the sinkholes that developed there. I think that there was a history there of years of dirt washing out from under that, but because of the pavement and because of the different things that were there, it just had to reach a certain level before it started falling in. So I think that was one of the things they were concerned with up here, just to make sure there wasn't a constant drop in water under that or anything, or dirt was already washed away and things of that nature. But they determined it was safe, and they opened the road back up and just put the barricade there where the pavement was missing.
All right. And for folks that tuned into WKRK, Yod, how are you doing?
I had instructions from your brother this week, Odd, that when I saw you today to arrest you and put handcuffs on you and take you to jail.
That sounds like something he would want you to do for me. Because I stay on his case.
There you go.
Good to see both
Good to
of
see
you.
you, Odd.
Good to see you on. But there's certain times that we operate in different locations, and like our studio here was without power for 2 hours, and we ran on battery until that battery died. So even with the power out, I'd say for probably 30, 35, 40 minutes, we were still on the air
Right.
on a battery backup. And usually that's enough time to get us back on the air. But when that battery died, we didn't have a backup
Right.
generator or anything like that. So what we do to inform folks is if we go off the air and there's an emergency situation, we take to our Facebook and Twitter accounts. And during this time, I was on the phone with the sheriff,
Right.
with the communications 911 center. And folks can usually go, as long as I have a cell phone on me, I can get to our
Right.
Facebook page and send out important information that way. So we just want to let folks know how they can get information should we go off the air.
Right. And I think right there in that immediate vicinity, I know I was at TV4 this morning doing a television spot this morning there with the Mountain View program. And I know that they were still experiencing some electronic difficulties, some things from that storm last week. Every time you have a close proximity lightning strike like that, even though you have surge protectors and all those different things, when it's very close proximity, some of that energy can bypass some of that stuff and still get into equipment and create havoc and
You
bugs.
see
and-
two new screens here.
you
That's a
go.
result of the event.
There you go.
Because when it came back up, this screen would not come back up, so I had to replace some equipment because of
Right.
that storm. And I believe TV4, they were also off the air during that time, and the cable system and a lot of internet service was
Right.
done. So even at the sheriff's office, there was some outages to
There was.
internet.
Yeah, there was. We have a backup generator at the sheriff's office to keep the power on and keep the detention center going and all those kind of things. But still with that, you're on a networking.
Right.
So it affects other parts of the county, and when your main systems and things go down to other parts of the county, it affects the telephone service, internet service, those type of things at the sheriff's office. So we can still be open, still have the lights on, still have air conditioning or heat or whatever we may need at that point. But sometimes communications do go down, and we're like you, we resort back to tablets, resort back to cell phones and MiFis and all those kind of things at that point.
It's always great to have some kind of backup.
Right.
And I found out during the tornado in March several years ago, that's when so many people realizes the importance of the social media
Right.
aspect to just get information out. And,
Right.
And it came in so much and so fast. It was really overwhelming. But we were off the air during that period because it took out the power lines between our studio and the tower.
Right.
And so until that got restored, which the power company and cable company and the fiber optics folks, they did a really great job restoring all that after that tornado damage.
We need to give a little shout out, especially to Murphy Power down here, because they do a phenomenal job as far as getting power
They do.
restored and getting things back up quickly. Very few times do people here, especially here in the Murphy area in the town, very few times do they go without power with an extended period of time.
That's true.
They're very prompt, very quick to get back and get the power on, and so. We just want to say thank you to Murphy Power Board and the hard work that they do down there to keep things running.
And those crews that get out there and restore power, they work in some of the worst conditions too.
They do.
It'll be storming and raining, and they're out there putting up a new power pole that got out. It's a job I wouldn't want to do. And,
snow,
the snow.
cold outside, things are freezing. They're out working while everybody else is sipping hot chocolate by the fire.
Yeah, I have to commend them for the good work they do on that.
Right.
Emma had brought in a news story. We were talking about scams earlier about hackers breaking into Mark Zuckerberg's Twitter and Pinterest accounts.
Right.
So even the king of Facebook is not immune to a hacking situation.
Right. Yeah, I think I can't remember now. They talked about the White House and the Pentagon. I think they get it's something like almost 1,000 hack attempts a day. That people are trying to hack in that stuff every day. And so it takes very skilled people to stay on top of that and keep the hackers at bay.
Right. All right. We were talking before the show about breaking and entering in some property that's been recovered.
Right. We've been making some headway on the breaking and entering that's been happening on the northwestern side of the county. The Unaka, Violet, Pack Mountain area. Hiwassee Dam kind of area. We've made several arrests out of that. We've recovered quite a bit of property out of it already. We're continuing to work on that, and we're continuing to track some of this property down that was broken into these houses. I want to also encourage people, to follow just a few little safety tips as far as your homes and things. Make sure they look lived in. Make sure that you keep your grass mowed and your yard trimmed and all those kind of things, and moving vehicles around and just letting the people that drive around the neighborhood know, hey, this house is occupied and people's here. Sometimes that's enough in itself to be a deterrent from breaking into some of these homes.
It doesn't look like an easy target.
Right, and that's what these guys are, and ladies too. It's not just guys, but that's what these folks are looking for. They're looking for that easy target. They're looking for a place that's not been lived in. They're looking for a place they can spend some time in. They're looking for a place where that nobody's going to be there when they go in, and nobody's going to come while they're there. And so, don't be an easy target. Do things to kind of be a deterrent. Make sure your home is well lit. Make sure of a nighttime you have motion sensors and well lit area. Make sure bushes are trimmed away from your windows and doors. Make sure that you can see out of your residence clearly. Make sure, like I say, that you have alarm systems, that your yard grass is trimmed and livable and all those kind of things. And when these guys and gals are driving by and they see a house that looks like it's lived in, and every time they come by, vehicles are in different positions or people's moved around or whatever, they're not interested in breaking into those type of homes because they're looking for somewhere where there's not anybody at. Now, that doesn't mean it's 100%. That doesn't mean you'll never get broke into if you do that. We do have people who do all these safety tips and still get broken into. But typically what it is, breaking and enterings are a crime of opportunity.
Right.
They're a crime of opportunity, and sometimes I know I have a very good friend that had a vehicle stolen. Her husband's vehicle was stolen from their driveway, and it was just within a matter of just 10, 15 minutes. They came home, changed clothes, went to the store real quick, came back, and by the time they left and came back, someone had broken into their home, stole their vehicle. And so, it doesn't prevent everything from happening. It's just a deterrent for those people out there.
The folks that are breaking and entering, a lot of them do watch and kind of log schedules. Like I've seen several news stories, even locally, where we've had people breaking and entering because they know this one family goes to church at 11 o'clock every Sunday morning.
Right.
So during church, a criminal would break into that person's house. So
obituaries, sometimes they read obituaries in the paper and they try to find these vacant homes where these people have died if they were alone and didn't have anybody else living in the house with them. So for family members, if you have a family member that died and they're alone, be sure, especially in the next week or so, a couple of weeks after the death and the burial, make sure you have people either staying in that house or frequenting that house a lot to make sure no one's breaking into it. Also, one safety tip I also want to make sure people understand is when you go on vacation, post those pictures when you get back.
Afterwards, yes.
Don't post them while you're on vacation and while you're there, because a lot of people cruise these Facebook sites and Twitter accounts and Instagrams and all these, and when somebody checks in and they say they're at Pensacola, Florida, or they say they're in Outer Banks or wherever right now, then for a lot of these people, they look at that and say, "Oh, that house is empty right now; it's vacant. So let's go break into it before they get back."
I never have used the check-in feature just for that
I
reason.
don't either. I never have used it.
If you're checking in someplace that's not your house, then
Right.
you're basically advertising the house is not
Right, that no one's home.
right. And even as I remember last year, I think it was Union County that someone had broken into several cars who were parked at a church. So
Right.
if you're at church, lock your car doors. I mean,
Yeah, one of the things, and I'm going to talk to Marble Springs this week about some church safety tips, and we developed that at Valleytown where I go to church, a safety team there, and you can't be too careful no matter where you're at. And I trust God, and I trust Him to protect me and my family. But however, He expects us to use a little common sense ourselves, and He expects us to do a few things for ourselves. And so one of the things we have done there is, we have men that kind of in between services and before service starts and during service kind of step out and check out things, make sure there's no one in the parking lot, make sure there's no one hanging around the building, and when it's time to take up the offering, to make sure there's nobody sketchy, hanging in the foyer or anything like that. So, there's just some practical things we can do just to make sure that we're safe wherever we are. We actually had an incident several years ago there where they were taking up the offering and somebody walked in off the street and followed the offering plates to the back, or tried to, and men from the safety team kind of intercepted them before they went to the back and inquired what they were doing, why they were going back, and that kind of thing. And subsequently, that person stepped out an exit door and left. And there's no doubt in my mind that if the safety team personnel hadn't have been involved in that, that they had some intent there of either watching to see where it was going and what was happening with it, or they were planning on robbing them or something. I'm not sure what it was. But you cannot be too careful, not even at church.
yeah, and if a person steals from a church or steals flowers off of a cemetery, they'll do just about anything.
Just about anything.
So
Yeah.
that's if they can show that kind of disrespect.
Right.
But all right, well, I can see that our time is come and going for the day. This like we just started talking,
There you
and still have plenty of things to talk about. But we'll do it again next week, same time, same place.
I've tried to talk to him into doing an hour-long program, but we'll see.
We need to somehow figure that out.
There
All
you
right.
go.
Sheriff, thank you very much. This is WKRK Radio in Murphy, North Carolina, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable 25, worldwide at country.am.